why people behave the way they do when they speak, and they do particular issues and cover up using language. So I also specialized on areas of psychology when I was doing education. So I hold a certificate also in counseling, psychology, in terms of, because of the fact that I did education.
Hello.
Professionally, I'm also trained. I hold a diploma in public administration. I also hold corporate governance certificate, leadership certificate from Kenya School of Government. I've also been trained in South Korea in elections management, and specifically electoral training and stakeholder engagement. I have also been trained in India, specifically on still elections training and specifically on political party management. I also participated in a study in South Africa to study through the Electoral Commission and NDI to study the political parties liaison committee and to understand how the Electoral Commission and the Registrar of Political Parties, which was established then, the liaison committee established under Article 38 of the Act, where there's which is an engagement between the Office of Registrar of Political Parties, the IEBC, and political parties themselves. So I participated in the study around 2014 to understand and underscore how we can engage with parties in a way to prevent conflict. I'm also trained in conflict resolution in elections in the ICPS London, which included mediation and conflict resolution specifically for political parties and elections. I'm also very well versed in issues of financial management, having been an accounting officer for the last 2 years and an AIE holder for about 15 years. So I'm very well versed in issues of financial management and procurement as stipulated in the PFM Act and also the Procurement Act in Kenya. I'm grounded also in human resource. I have a certificate from Kenya Institute of Education, Staff Education in human resource management, and I've been practicing human resource management by virtue of my work. Because I conducted training, I've been conducting training across the country for all the returning officers, all the presiding officers, and everybody, including political parties. I've also contributed in writing books, and I have a record 16 manuals in elections matters, which I spearheaded to write when I was in the Electoral Commission. And all of them are printed, and they were the ones that we used during the trainings, which ranges from the source book, which consolidates all the works of elections in Kenya, starting from independence, coming to date. Also, returning officers' guide, elections management framework, presiding officers' guide, which we used all the time. In matters of political parties leadership, I am a co-author in a book that we used during 2017 called Political Parties Leadership Program. We have a book, a source book for the training of all political parties leaders. It's the book we used when we were training all the aspirants and candidates during the elections.
Thank you, and Lito. Of course, you know the purpose of this exercise here.
Yes.
Members are fully aware of their role. They are friendly to you. We are not here to fail you, but we can fail you if you don't meet the criteria. So this is not a failing committee. It's a passing committee, approving, but unless there are cases where we feel that you will not serve the purpose and to conform with the appointment.
Okay.
So feel at home and
But Chair, I wanted to clarify, before I joined the Electoral Commission, I was also in leadership. I was in education sector, where I worked as a district quality assurance and standard officer, and also a district education officer.
We have your resume
with thank
us.
You.
Members, members, I threw the floor open. I will start with the Vice.
Thank you. And you said you've been an AIE holder for 15 years.
Yes.
But I want you to tell the committee, to demonstrate to the committee that you have at least 15 years experience. Mm-hmm. Please just demonstrate that to the committee.
In terms of management, leadership, and governance?
Post-qualification.
Post-qualification.
Yes.
I graduated in 1996 from Moi University, taught for a period of 2 years, left and became
Where did you teach?
I taught in Muranga, Mudidi, a school called Mudidi High School in Muranga, Maragua. Then from there, I joined the education fraternity as an inspector of schools in charge of English and literature, because I'm a teacher of English and literature, 1999. So after graduating, I taught for about 2.5 years. Then after that, I left to become inspector of schools. I was posted in Kiabu around April 1999. I worked in Kiabu in various positions. First of all, as a person in charge of English and literature. Then later I moved to become area education officer. I was posted by the DU to several divisions within Kiabu. I also worked as a divisional inspector of schools.
Sorry, I just want you to demonstrate very briefly to the committee the 15 years experience. So your first posting was in 1999? Yeah.
As
an inspector of schools?
As an inspector of schools, which is a managerial.
For how many years?
I worked as an inspector of schools for about 6 years.
And thereafter?
I became a district education officer.
For how many years?
For 3 years.
Thereafter?
Thereafter, I joined the Electoral Commission.
When did you join the Electoral Commission?
2010.
And you worked with them for how long?
I worked there for 8 years.
Okay.
Then I moved to, now seconded to Registrar of Political Parties.
So I think you've demonstrated that you've been a public officer since 1999.
Yes.
Now, why do you think you are uniquely qualified to be the Registrar of Political Parties?
First of all, I have hands-on experience.
We want to, with the permission of the members, we want to allow you can actually remove the mask because you already, you have social distance.
Yeah.
Yes, so you can actually, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I think it was a bit of a disruption. First of all, I have over 19 years in public service, as you, in terms of leadership in public service, as you can calculate. 2, I am very well grounded in matters governance, public administration, and management. And having the requisite experience, which ranges now from 1999 to date, I really can demonstrate that I am the right candidate. I have the right qualifications. As I've stipulated, I'm trained in governance. I'm also trained in elections management. I've trained in political parties management. I've also been acting for the last 2 years, and I've demonstrated that I'm able to hold that particular position. And in terms of what I've done in the past, my record can speak for itself, that I've been able to manage programs and at national level, starting from the concluded one, the general elections. I participated at a front line of operations in training for the whole country. I trained indeed in my career, in my training career at IEBC, I've trained over 2.7 million Kenyans in terms of elections, ranging from returning officers to aspirants to observers to presiding officers and all. I've been able to train as many people and make the materials for that purpose. And in terms of operations, I've actually done elections operation. During the repeat election, when there was so many things going on, I spearheaded the operation department to run the second presidential elections.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, an historical association with IEBC is not necessarily a positive.
Yeah.
Because you know that the IEBC as an institution has had issues,
Yes.
which were even on record. So demonstrate to us that that association has not tainted you.
First of all, I've actually mentioned I've been an AI holder for 15 years since I was an area education officer to date. In all my record, I've never been mentioned negatively in any report. I have managed billions. My training department itself had more than, in the last election, had more than 2.6 billion. And I I conducted all the training programs with the support of my bosses, and I have not been adversely mentioned in any of the report. If you look at the training program itself, and how it was organized, and all the materials and what we did, I demonstrated that I'm impartial, I'm a person of integrity, I'm a person who can be counted on to run without looking who is watching me, because I watch over myself without necessarily doing what is not right. So I do what is right, regardless of who is watching and where I am.
So what you're saying is that you have maintained your personal integrity despite any institutional issues.
Yeah, in spite of any institutional issues, I've maintained my personal integrity.
Now, are you familiar with Article 10 on values, national values, and Article 232 in terms of the principles of public service? And if you are, please just tell us briefly your understanding of both articles.
One, Article 10 speaks to the national values, and there are many, but I can mention but a few. Patriotism, respect to the rule of law, which I adhere to. It talks about patriotism, inclusion, support to the marginalized, and making sure that national diversity, and ensuring that whatever a public servant does, he is looking at the bigger picture of a country rather than a selfish interest. And it also speaks to devolution. The same applies to Article 232. It talks about the principles, what the public officer is expected to, how is expected to behave. And some of the provision include that a public officer should be professional in all the dealings. He should endeavor to engage the public when you are making public policies, calling for public participation on the part of the public officer or a public institution when somebody is doing that. It calls for accountability, impartiality, competitiveness, whether it's in procurement or in recruitment. There should be competitiveness and having a servant leadership rather than bossing the people that you serve, and allowing access to information so that whenever information is needed, it should be communicated out there to the people, to the Kenyan people, because a public officer holds a public office in trust of the Kenyan people. So he should demonstrate that that person is accountable, is impartial, and is serving the people correctly.
That's I think that's clear enough. Now, you have applied to be the registrar of political parties.
Yes.
I just want you to note this quick series of questions. Honorable Shamala, you have some issue?
Yes, Chair. Just requesting if we can have not necessarily a limit, but a number of questions so that we can...
Us trying to restrict the number of political parties that should be registered, because Kenyans have rights of association, and the fact that we gave ourselves a multi-party democracy, then we actually allowed ourselves to right to association as far as forming political parties are concerned. But I want to submit, as far as making them institutionalizing political parties, because that's where we should go as a country, and see which are other measures that we can put in place to ensure that all political parties that are registered are institutionalized, and whether they remain all the way, and what happens to a political party. For example, if it remains registered in it is not performing its duties, then that is what we need to focus on. So that if, for example, a party has been there for 2 consecutive elections, has not fielded candidates, has not been active, but it is filing correctly, because, registrar dealing with filings. How then do you classify that? Probably it's a gap in law we need to address, so that as far as we have parties, then they should be operational, and they should actually be in a position to tell us and to account to the country what have they done as political parties. So that is my submission on that particular matter. The other one you asked is the question of coalitions. The Act provides for pre- and post-coalition agreements by political parties. And my position, and as it is currently, we should still support pre- and post-elections coalition, because that is part of democracy. Because there are parameters that affect parties before elections, and the other parameters that come on board after elections. So those coalitions should exist. However, the issue of the coalition should be thought through in law, because looking at the provisions currently, there are certain gaps. For instance, and I'm speaking to the question of independence. When there's no clear provision, what happens to the ideologies and manifestos of coalition partners in a coalition? Which manifesto will they follow? Do they come up with a new manifesto so that they start following a particular ideology? Maybe one party was a green movement ideology, another one is a social justice ideology. Then they come together. Do they continue pursuing their own line, or do they have somewhere they are meeting so that they are moving towards? And especially if the coalition is in government, sometimes you can imagine you have to harmonize that in terms of ideology, so that we are moving towards a particular direction as far as ideology is concerned. The other issue, as I finish that point, is that when you look at the coalition today, minimal role is given to how the coalition will be managed. I agree there's a schedule of what should be contained in a coalition agreement, but we are not clearly told what is the role of registrar of political parties, what is the role of each individual parties, and when they land into problems, then we are left guessing. And the other very important thing, and especially in terms of reform, is when you think of a coalition from a perspective of people have come together, and there are 5 or 6 coalition members, and then one decide to fall out. As it stands now, there's no provision how one member can pull out. It seems if one member pull out, then the coalition collapses. That becomes a dangerous move, because when you come together, the freedom and rights to association should also be addressed in coalition, so that if I feel dissatisfied with continuing with the coalition and I fall out, I should not be forced to remain in that coalition as far as the period remains.
The vice is satisfied. George Mogala, you wanted a question?
Just one question, Anne.
Yes.
There is an act of parliament which is not very popular with the politicians and members of parliament. It's called, I think, campaign funding.
Campaign financing.
Yeah, all right?
Yes.
Its operation was suspended last parliament to start the beginning of the current life of parliament.
Yes.
But we have seen no regulations made thereunder. And we're really asking whether we can enforce this particular act without regulations. Can you confirm to us that that act cannot be enforced without regulations being made first and foremost?
Okay, thank you. First of all, and thank you for the question. First of all, the enforcer of that act is mainly the Commission, the IEBC. And I agree, I totally, personally agree with you that it needs to be interpreted further in form of regulations. If they have not, I may not be sure how far they have gone, but I remember there was an initiative to do that. But I want to confirm that it's probably need to be interpreted further so that it doesn't face the same hurdles it faced last time when we tried to implement it.
Mheshimiwa Shamara, let's hear you before your questions are spent.
Thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate that. And I have a question on, more specifically with regards to Section 39 of the Act, and it's on the Political Parties Tribunal.
Yes.
What improvements or gaps, if any, would you make if your position is confirmed? And has any audit been done after the last election on this particular tribunal? Were there any complaints? Were they 100% perfect in the way the tribunal conducted its hearings? What would you have to say about this particular tribunal and any improvements if you were to make them?
Okay, thank you, Mheshimiwa. Yeah. First of all, the tribunal exists as a different institution from the Office of Registrar of Political Parties. And actually, part of the dispute they determine comes from the decisions made by registrar, and then parties take registrar to the tribunal. But in terms of improvement, I think personally, I think one of the issues that we need to focus on, especially going towards election, is devolving. Providing a devolved tribunal during elections, especially when they have to determine so many disputes after party primaries. So I think it should be devolved to the level of probably counties during the hearing. Looking at what happened last time, they were overwhelmed, and then the period 7 days was so little a time for them to resolve all the disputes. So if we reduplicate the same in the county so that during the election period, we are able to resolve disputes as quickly as possible, that would be good. The other issue is that the tribunal should be strengthened in terms of the staff, in terms of the operations, so that they are able to speak and to deal with disputes as soon as is practically possible.
Yes, Mheshimiwa Mutai.
Thank you, Chair. And my question is, it's a brief one. As the Registrar of Political Parties, what would you do to curb the trend of takeovers in this country of party leadership, as we witnessed in Fort Kenya recently, which you're currently handling? Yeah. We also saw in the Third Way Alliance, where we saw a court being thrown out. Even there was a challenge on the tenure of Mudavadi as the leader of ANC, which came before your desk. Do you think it's healthy for politics, or we are going back to the dark days, which is a bad trend in Africa where leaders are just being thrown out left, right, center? What would you do to curb that?
Okay, first of all, parties, Mheshimiwa, are independent institutions as captured in the Act, and there are procedures by which they govern their membership and do their business within the parties. So much such that a party is supposed to do its own business and then present the result of what they have done to the Registrar of Political Parties. But I think one of the issues the Registrar of Political Parties should focus on is strengthening the internal party democracy and the internal dispute resolution mechanism, so that when they are handling that, they are actually conscious of what are the provisions of the law, and also the issue of fair administration of justice, and what should actually happen in case they want to remove a member. And a member in this case may be the party leader, may be an official of the party, and all that. The procedures that they should be followed. But I want to submit to you, it is difficult for a registrar to intervene and tell a party, please do not remove your party leader. You can only persuade them when you're strengthening them internal party democracy, and you strengthen how they refuse their dispute. Because finally, all said and done, a political party is supposed to talk about politics, and politics carries the day sometimes in a political party. Political parties are registered for the business of politics. So sometimes politics carry the day. And it's upon even the officials of a political party to be able to incorporate and work together with others. Because we have also witnessed where some officials of political parties are high-headed. They are unreachable, they are not able to be reached, they are not able to call each other at a round table so that they speak about the issue. So internal party democracy is what probably we need to strengthen. Yeah.
Kamote.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is a brief one. Considering that Kenya is now going digital, and many sectors have actually digitalized their processes. Lands, for example, you don't need to go to the registrar to register, to the registrar of lands to register a parcel of land. What plans do you have to digitalize the process of registering a political party? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa, for that question. Currently, we can say we are, in terms of registration of membership of a political party, when somebody wants to register a political party, we are digital, it's complete digital, because you recruit members through a system. We have a system called Integrated Political Parties Management System, which is a system that captures and stores the membership register of all political parties. So when one is registering a political party, you go through that platform. So you digitally register members. But what we need to improve in terms of digitalization is our processes. For example, as you said to us, and some document and all, we should be able to put them within the system. And that is what we were doing before the coronavirus came on board. We had hired quite a number of staff on temporary basis to try and capture all records of political parties and put them in the platform, so that when we come and we have political party X, for example, let me give the example, the oldest party, KANU, we can see when KANU was first registered. It's giving the history, coming all the way to when the officials have been changing, because the files are there, the records are there, but they need to be put in a digitalized manner. That is what we were doing. We are still committed to that project to make sure that every record of our political parties is captured digitally, and the party can be able to access its record. And to some extent, as required by the Act, at least some information which the public may have to access are able to access through that. The other one is availing the membership register, which we are in serious conversation with eCitizen, that we create the platform in eCitizen where a member of public, you can just go through eCitizen and check whether you are a member of any political party. We are actually almost through as far as that process. We are waiting for stakeholder engagement, and but we have been given a go-ahead by Treasury, who are the people who host the eCitizen in terms of engaging. So we are engaging, and that is part of digitization, so that the register is accessible. The other one is creating a code where somebody can just use the code to check your membership register and others. So were it not for the constraint of FAD, the code has been there and in existence. But sometimes we close it down when funds, we are not able to sustain it as far as funding is concerned.
Very well.
Yeah.
Mheshimiwa Angwe.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank the nominee that in her submission to us, she has really declared that so far to date, she has no conflict of interest.
Yeah.
But I just want some clarification from you.
Yes.
on the issues of the numbers. You told us that your net worth is 56 million.
Yes.
You have some family business.
Yeah.
I would want maybe to just, not to be specific, but say the nature of the business. That's my weight. That's number one. Just clarify to us the nature of your business.
Yes.
Then number two, what is your shareholding in terms of that nature of business? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The nature of business is in twofold: farming, and also we are in transport business. The nature of shareholding, I think it's 50%. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The questions I'd like to ask are three in one. There are reports that there are some Kenyans who came to your office and tried to register the Communist Party of Kenya, and another team that tried to register Tanga Movement of Kenya, but you didn't allow them to register those names. So I just wanted to know why you made that decision. And also recently there have been some political leaders who are going around the coast region saying that the coast needs to register to have its own political party. Should they come to your office, will you be able to register them? Like, would you be able to register like a party called the Coast Party of Kenya? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam, for those questions. Let me start with the one of communist. The reason why we had republic, and you know, communist is a system of government also, and it's a type of it's a type of ruling. It's a type of administration in a country. So we wanted to know if they take government, will we go the communist way as a country and practice all the tenets of communism in Kenya. And so the conflict was between what they are saying, the ideology of communist, the way we know it, against the constitution of Kenya. But when they were able to confirm that their type of democracy, they still subscribe to the democratic principles of this country, holding elections, respect to freedom of association, they will respect properties and all that. When they were able to confirm that, and we went through the process of PPDT and took a consent, we gave them the name, and it's in record what they shall practice in case they take government, and they are the Communist Party of Kenya, and we agreed. The other one was on Taga. We could not register Taga, given that it was against the provisions of Section 8 of the Political Parties Act. You know, a name of a political party should have a kind of a meaning. a democratic meaning. To us, looking at the face value of the name, if you just somebody tell you Taga, in itself it's even offensive, and it's against the act. So that is the reason, our reasoning, and we are saying let's consider. You know, at the heat of the movement, somebody can identify, but consider 10 years from today, when the politics are not, the word tagataga is no longer in politics, then people get lost. And the same case applied. For example, when you register a party called Sabasaba, later people ask you what exactly was Sabasaba 20 years down the line. If you ask my daughter today, and Nauliza, what is Sabasaba? But people who are there during Sabasaba time can identify. We want uniquely identified political parties which can speak to generations even to come. I think that is the reason why we could not take that one. The issue of Coast Party, we will not register a party by the name Coast Party, because for the same reason, because a party is supposed to be national outlook. The name should actually speak that is incorporating everyone. So we are not registering. As we start today, we are not registering. The Act does not allow us to register parties that are regional, that they are addressing a particular community, that they are addressing a particular region. So Coast Party will not be registered. But if they come as founders from Coast and incorporate others from across the country and give themselves a name that meets Section 8 of the Act, then we shall have no problem registering them.
Very well. And then?
Yeah, mine is a quick one, a short one. For the position of registrar of political party, or that institution itself, I'm sure is very susceptible to corruption, which is a big problem in our country today. How will you confront if there is any allegation of corruption within your system, or what strategies will you put in place to make sure that by working with parties, there is no corruption in that office?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. First of all, it's what we have put, because we know. We have not had a situation, but if such a situation happens, we have put check and balances. What we do, for example, when we are registering a political party, we try as much as possible to decentralize registration. So one officer is dealing with one matter, handles over to another officer. So you create check and balances. And we also have an internal audit department that continuously monitor the operations of the office and check on every loophole that come along. We also, and even in the future, in case such a thing happens, there are disciplinary measures for an officer who can be found to be engaged in such, so that the whole disciplinary process, as required by the Human Resource Manuals and the Public Service Act and all, will take place. But we also train our officers and declare majority of the time that they should not engage in corrupt practices, because the tone of the top also matters. The more you speak about it and discourage officers, that culture dies, because culture starts, an institutional culture starts from the top going down. So in case we encounter, we shall deal with individuals responsible, and every person as required by the Act, the Integrity Act, you carry your own personal responsibility. We also look at the conflict of interest, and we have a conflict of interest register where if you have a conflict, you must register there, and we check on you if you have anything that you have to offer in terms of trying to diverge from the corporate culture of the institution.
And try to remember that the questions that were put, and members also remember the questions that were answered on behalf of the committee, asked by the Vice Chair, covered quite a wide spectrum of the areas that we want to answer. So try to be as brief as you can, because we answered several questions put by the Vice Chair. Members also, note that Mheshimiwa Kaluma is on Zoom, so he is also participating on this committee. Munene, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was beginning to wonder whether you can see me, maybe because of my size or my head is bowed. A very quick one.
That's why I saw you.
Thank you.
Because I knew you.
A very quick one and straightforward. And confirm to this committee and Kenyans at large that if these committees approve your nomination, you will be fair, neutral, and independent in the discharge of your duties as the registrar of political parties in Kenya.
One, it is required by the Act, and I actually implement the Act. So I have no option but to be fair, impartial, and independent. Yeah.
Ishimu? Yes. Short and tall. Very tall.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. For efficiency in your operations in discharge of your mandate as a registrar of political parties, and apart from the timelines that have been given by the Act or the law, do you have administratively put yourself or arranged your work in a way that you've given yourself timelines to discharge various responsibilities? For example, once someone applies, how long do you give yourself to discharge that, to deliver a certificate? When there's a dispute that has been brought, have you given yourself timelines within which to resolve? When a communication has, those kind of stuff, have you internally, for efficiency, considered taking or giving yourself those timelines? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Honorable Member. I think yes. One, we have a service charter. However, it's good to submit that some of our operations are affected by other institutions because we are working with other institutions, for example, to execute a particular mandate. So sometimes our timelines are affected by other institutions. When they delay on their part, then delay also automatically come to us. But we have very clear administrative timelines, and we try as much as possible to adhere to them. One, and probably that question should be answered also by saying we still need to add staff to the Office of Registrar of Political Parties, because one of the issues that affect sometimes some of the timelines could be as a result of we don't have adequate staff to be able to handle particular issues. So you've signed an officer who has so many files to work within a particular period. But as far as we are concerned, majority of our timelines actually also are covered in the Act. The statutory timelines are there. They are covered in the Act. And most often than not, we adhere to the statutory timelines captured by the Act.
Very well. Any other member with any? So I think members are comfortable. Let me ask you a question as a matter of interest. You spoke about the tribunals being cascaded to county or so, counties. And as a personal experience in election matters, this may be outside your portfolio presently.
Yes.
But would you agree also that even in respect of IEBC, clearance of candidates and so forth should perhaps also cascade to counties to eventually also, because this also reflects on the number of cases that we have in tribunals.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. I start guided by, I think, as far as IEBC is concerned, the clearance of candidates are actually done right from constituency level for members of parliament, then and MCA, then at the county for governors, members of parliament representing women, and then at national level now we do the presidential clearance. But as far as the tribunal is concerned, that was my personal suggestion, that that cascading will help in terms of easing dispute resolution. And I think also, probably what, Chair, I may also prefer it is also cascaded, is there's a committee that sits for IBC during elections that only sits in Nairobi to hear dispute as there is coming from nomination, coming from IBC nomination itself. So that committee only sits in Nairobi, and it's actually made of commissioners and the chairman. It has stipulation. Maybe that committee need to be taken downward also, so that it's at the county level to be able to address as quickly as possible, because they are usually very overwhelmed during election. And also our office, the Office of Registrar of Political Parties, what I would request, because we report to this committee, is that you consider funding us well enough to be able also to devolve to the counties. We are now currently present in only 7 counties, and with a mandate of regulating activities of political parties and political parties themselves, it becomes a bit of a challenge without our presence in many of the counties. So even us, we also feel that devolving to that level, as captured in our organogram, probably can help to make us more efficient.
Okay, thank you. For the sake of transparency, let me report to the committee and to you and to everybody that in response to the advertise that we had in the media, that we received 7 memoranda in your case, or put down in affidavits, 7 of them in support, in your favor, and we did not receive any memorandum against your approval.
Thank you.
So you may note that. I think. Yes, and yes, and again you are cleared by all the statutory bodies.
Yes.
And all the bodies that were required by the clerk to be submitted. So I'm happy to report that. So you are through. And
maybe has any closing comment.
Do you have any comment? Do you have any reservations, any comments to make? You may, or if you don't have, that is okay. Before I release you.
No, I may not have many comments, but really to thank this committee for according me the opportunity to appear before you, and for handling me with a lot of decorum and a lot of kindness. I really appreciate that. I cannot take that one for granted. When you hear vetting, you always panic. But but thank you for the opportunity and for the handling. I really, really appreciate, and I know sooner or later, if I'm approved, I'll be appearing before you to make requests. Thank you so much. Thank you.
If you at your own.
Chair. And did you come with any documents that you wish to leave with us? Any additional documents? Or you do not have any? Then just submit it to us, please.
Yes?
That's fine. Just
yes,
submit
them to Council Wasike, particularly the authorities that you have had in your identity. Bas, let us tujaribu sana tumalize haraka. Tumalize sana. Yes. Ugule, when are we having when can we have the earliest we can have a report?
Hopefully Tuesday or Monday.
Tuesday, okay.
Because we have a deadline.
Yeah.
We have to submit by 24.
Okay. Very good. Karibu.
You have to leave, eh?
It's
Okay.
nice you came.
Sawa. Sawa.
Tuletee
Thank
wale
you.
wengine.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all.
Chair, you know, I'm asking.
We are not
Ure,
spacing. Let's go fast.
We just need 30 minutes each.
Yes. Even 20.
Up to 4 p.m. is
20
long.
minutes. 20
Can
minutes.
they just be called to all
Yes.
Okay.
Shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Okay. All right, welcome. Sign.
Yes.
Have you signed?
Yes, I've signed.
Yeah, Mr. Abdullahi. So be comfortable. Yeah?
Okay.
Don't become apprehensive. There is no hard questions. The committee is friendly. I will ask them again to first to introduce themselves so that you know them, become familiar with them.
Good morning, sir. My name is Jennifer Shamala. I'm a member of Parliament representing special interests and a member of this committee.
Chair, my name is Mutai Jafet, MP Bureti constituency, and a member of this committee.
I'm Geshimu Gedenji, MP Geshogo, and a member of this committee.
Anthony Kiai, member of this committee, member of Parliament Mukurweni.
Kamoti Mwamkale, MP Rabai, and a member of this committee.
Zulekha Juma Hassan, MP Kwale County, a member of this committee.
Adam Haji Yusuf, MP Mandara West, a member of this committee, and I would like to declare interest that I know the candidate very well. He comes from my area.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Abenai Wasika, clerk in charge of this committee. Thank you.
Mugure Getuto, Legal Counsel. Halima Hussein, Committee Clerk.
Job Waga, Audio Officer.
Otiende Amolo, Vice Chair.
I'm Turu Kigano, Chair. We will ask a few questions, matters relating to you, but if you can briefly, very briefly, say who you are, right? Explain yourself. Tell us who you are, your background, because we have your resume with us. So just briefly, tell us who you are, what you've been doing, your family background.
Thank you very much, Chair, and members of the committee. I really thank you for this privilege. My name is Ali Abdullahi Suro. I am a Kenyan from Mandera County, happily married with children, and very excited to be before this committee. In terms of educational qualification, I have masters in public administration, and in terms of professional experience, I have over 18 years professional post-qualification experience in various capacities, and served both in the public and private sector, and the latest of which in the public sector I've been a CEC, County Executive Committee member for Finance and Economic Planning in Isiolo County. And the various positions that I've served in has really prepared me for this position in terms of experience and professional skills. Thank you very much.
There is no memoranda submitted in his case. So nothing against, nothing for the candidate. So that may shorten your questions, perhaps. Any member with a question? No? Yeah? Yeah, go.
Mr. Ale, you say you have 18 years experience.
Yes.
Could you let us know where this experience has been attained, especially in terms of the public service?
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. In terms of public service, I've served in 3 institutions. The first one is National Social Security Fund, which is a parastatal. And I think I got very good experience while serving there because I started as an enforcement officer with the National Social Security Fund and grew through the rank to become a manager there. While serving as enforcement officer, one of the key skills that I've attained is enforcing compliance with the NSSF Act. I believe that experience helps me a lot in terms of this position, because again, one of the main role of the assistant registrar is helping the registrar in enforcing compliance with the Political Parties Act. While there, I got a lot of experience in terms of regulation, inspection, and enforcing compliance. Later, I joined IEBC as an elections coordinator and participated in the 2013 election as a returning officer. And while there also, members and chair, we understand that this office of ORPP has very close relations with IEBC, and many times it has, one time it was actually a directorate under the same. So again, the skills that I gained there will come in very handy when I serve in this particular position. Later, I served as a county executive committee member in two capacities, initially as water and also as finance and economic planning. Again, the experience I gained there helps me a lot, has prepared me for this position, because you understand that CECs are also state officers, and therefore it has really helped me in inculcating skills and expectations of a state officer in terms of how he's supposed to carry himself and the rest like. So again, it's a leadership position which calls for a lot of decision making and also a lot of strategic planning. So again, the skills that I gained there, I believe, will come in handy for this position. Thank you.
You're a former CEC for Mandera, you said. Isiolo.
Yeah.
To have been a CEC, you must have been appointed by the then governor, which suggests that you may have had political affiliations. Could you demonstrate to us how you will exercise independence as a deputy registrar?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Sure, I was an appointee of the governor as a CEC, and definitely there is a suggestion that I belong to a particular political affiliation. But I believe that that is just by coincidence. I am a professional all along and believe in delivering services impartially and objectively. Again, just the same way this position as a presidential appointment, the appointment in itself does not necessarily make someone get affiliated to a position. Therefore, once I'm appointed to this position, I will uphold the requirement of expectations of a state officer and make sure that the office I hold and the dignity and the confidence in this office is protected, and I work diligently in terms of discipline and commitment to service delivery, selfless service based on public interest, and also ensuring that I give prompt, efficient, and equitable service to all my clients and the stakeholders. Thank you.
Could you demonstrate to us how your educational background and work experience will help you in the position you have applied for?
Thank you very much. Again, as I've alluded to earlier, I have, in terms of educational background, I was trained in government and public administration. I went further to do masters in public administration. And as you're well aware, this is a position in terms of educational qualification. Public administration is a requirement under the Act that the person filling this office must have. And again, I've trained with regards to how government are run, how political parties are managed, and the whole issues around governance and political parties are courses that I've particularly done. Actually, I did a course in political parties management, both in Kenya and in Africa. And in terms of public administration also, training in public administration, I have done about efficient delivery of public services and how it's essential that productivity in the public service are key to citizens' satisfaction to the services. So I've been trained along those lines, and I believe that it is very important for this position. With regards to professional qualification, again, I have stated earlier that I have got experience with regards to enforcement of an act of parliament while at NSSF. I have got experience in managing institution with regards to democratic governance while at IEBC and management of elections. I got also experience in management of elections, which political parties are actually a key institution that helps in democratic governance in the country. While as a CEC also, I was able, to get skills to perform as a state officer. So I believe that those three institutions that I've worked in also gave me professional experience to be able to conduct the affairs of this office efficiently. Thank you.
What is your understanding of the Constitution in terms of national values and the principles of public service in the Constitution?
Thank you, Chair. In terms of national values, I think our Constitution handles that under Article 10, and it requires, 4 key issues in terms of, the first one is with regard to patriotism, national unity, democracy, and the rule of law to be upheld. The second one is about, human dignity, equity, social justice, as well as protection of the minorities. And we also have issues to do with, good governance, accountability, transparency, and integrity, not leaving behind the issue of also sustainable development. So it's clearly spelled out in Article 10 of the Constitution, and I believe there are values that I carry along with myself and be able to espouse them as I serve in this office. With regards to public service, I believe it's also covered under Article 232 of the Constitution, and it upholds issues to do with professionalism, issues to do with prompt and efficient service delivery to citizens, issues to do with accountability for administrative actions, and being able to use merit in terms of recruitment and also in terms of promotion, taking care of diversity of the Republic of Kenya in terms of composition of the public service, as well as issues to do with equal opportunities for all groups of Kenyans, including the marginalized groups of women, youth, people with a disability, and the rest like. Thank you.
Thank you. My 2 last questions. Are you aware of how many political parties we have registered in Kenya? And what is your view in terms of registration of political parties? Are they too many, are they too few, or they are just okay?
Thank you, Chair. I think we have over 70 political parties, maybe 74 the last time I checked. And they're fully registered. There are also a few others which have provisional registration, maybe around 10 the last time I checked. And I believe that as much as we have right to political association and right to, enjoy our politics in a way that we want, 74 is really a big number. Because when we have political parties, why do we have political parties? They're supposed to have distinct ideologies and be able to, have its main role as either participating in formation of government or forming government in itself. So when you look at most of these parties, yes, they might have met the minimum requirement for registration, but again, at the end of the day, you find that many of them do not even have one representative, even in the county assemblies. So you see what is the need of having these many parties. I believe that we should have maybe less number of parties that have distinct ideologies and that also, promote that of national character and also be able to promote, democracy in the country. That does not mean that I'm going to infringe on the rights of any Kenyan to be able to form the political party that they want. Thank you.
My last question to you. You know that the Constitution requires that at least 1/3 of Parliament and other appointed officers should be of the opposite gender. And you know that we have not achieved this. What is your view in terms of how we can achieve this? Whether and how?
Thank you very much. I know that's also a very thorny issue. And I'm also aware that the current Parliament has really, even the previous one has attempted to ensure that we achieve this. It's not a very easy requirement, but it's a very important one. First of all, I want to affirm that it's a very important provision with regards to addressing marginalization, and we really need to find a way. It's very important. Secondly, in terms of my view, I think it starts at the political parties. I believe that if our political parties are able to, at the time of even in their own internal structures and internal processes, are able to promote that value within the political parties, and maybe ensure that not more than 2/3 of their officials in the governing body, in the management committees, as well as in the candidates that they nominate for positions are 2/3, then it will go a long way in ensuring that at the national level, when our legislative representatives are elected, we can achieve that. So starting at the political parties will really help in achieving that provision.
Members? Honorable Mutai?
Yes, just a brief one. Looking at the establishment of political parties, what kind of reform, if you're taken on board, would you initiate or do you think should be done to make it a perfect institution or to improve?
Thank you very much, member. I think we have a long way to go with regards to management of our political parties, because we have a lot of challenges as it exists now. Parties have weak internal structures. There is way below average internal democracies, and also there is a lot of party hopping here and there, and lack of distinct ideologies. So the reforms that I believe I'm going to bring into place is that I think we will be able to have a lot more stringent measures with regards to registration of political parties, so that we have political parties that meet the requirement of the Constitution in terms of being national character, having a national character, having democratically elected, governing bodies, and meeting the 2/3 gender rule. So one of the key reforms that I'll bring about is ensuring that we have stringent measures with regards to parties having branches, at least in more than half of the counties, and operational branches for that matter, not just for the purpose of compliance issues, but branches that are really operating with the structures and serving the public. Another reform I want to bring about is with regards to management of funds by political parties, and also how political parties are financed. Many a times you have political parties, especially those that don't benefit from the public political parties fund, are briefcase parties financed by maybe the one individual, and that is against the provisions of the Act, the Political Parties Act, which requires that not more than, a particular individual should not finance the expenditures of a party with more than 5% of the annual expenditure. So those are the kind of reforms that I want to bring about, enforcing compliance, ensuring that parties have internal democracies, ensuring that those parties that benefit from, public funding are accountable and use those funds for the purpose that's been provided for. The other reform, of course, is I really believe in is automation, because many times we have challenges with regards to communication between the Office of the Registrar and the political parties, and you might not be able to control a lot of these issues. We have issues to do with multiple registrations, issues to do with, members who are registered, citizens who are registered without their consent. All these issues can be resolved when we have a proper political parties, management information system put in place and link political parties to that particular system. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Ali, I have noted your experience in public administration, which goes, of course, hand in hand with public policy, which are the guidelines and parameters used for public administration. What are your views? You've just talked about the funding of political parties, but what are your views on external and external funding of political parties? And I'm not talking about a system or an organization like the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, who states that its objectives are the strengthening of the capacity of political parties. And if you're talking about looking for external funding, how will you ensure that some of these funders are not funders who would influence and fund political parties for, in other words, influence peddling?
Thank you, Madam. As you've rightly put, it's very important for us to be able to ensure that funding to political parties are done without strings attached. And when we talk about external funding, we should be talking about eligible funding as provided for in the law, because the Political Parties Act and the attendant regulations have clearly spelled out that there are certain funding that are not eligible. For instance, foreign governments cannot fund political parties. Foreign citizens are not supposed to fund political parties, as well as, even non-governmental or intergovernmental organizations are not supposed to fund political parties as an entity. And therefore, we should be working within that framework of the law. And I believe that there are eligible funding systems within the law where we have the public funding as well as member subscriptions or donations that are legible. So as from my perspective, it is very important for parties to be able to run in their affairs, because parties are very important institutions within the country that helps in bringing about democratic governance in our republic. Therefore, one of the key things that I'm going to ensure is that the funding of these parties are within the law, and ensuring that we don't have people who fund parties single-handedly to be able to use that position maybe to gain particular private objective.
Thank you. I wish to interject. Section 27, the sources of funds for a political party are, Section 27(2), a foreign agency or a foreign political party which shares an ideology with a political party registered in Kenya may provide technical assistance to that political party. Do you, in your opinion, think that perhaps this particular clause may be too open-ended? What are your views?
Thank you very much.
In the view of the fact that you said something else contrary to what I'm reading from the Act.
Thank you very much, Madam. I am very well aware of that provision, but that provision also comes with some limitations. It can only be technical assistance. And it goes further and says that they should not be providing any form of assets. They should not be providing, in terms of real financial assistance that the party is going to use. It can only be in form of technical assistance. But I agree with you that it is an open-ended that can be abused, and therefore, probably, as we talk about the reforms and the improvement of the regulatory and legislative framework, those are some of the things that we can work on to ensure that we don't have people using such windows to be able to influence or peddle influence. Thank you.
Another question? Mheshimiwa K.
Thank you, sir. The office that you're going to occupy if you succeed today is a very critical one. And my question is, if you look at the trend, especially about the big parties, there has been a stifling of democracy in terms of internal democracy, where the dissenting voices of the members is being stifled. And my question is, if you are confirmed, how are you going to deal with the issue? Number two, there's also this trend whereby parties are not doing elections if and when they are supposed to do that, as provided for by the law. If you're confirmed, how are you going to look at the situation?
Thank you very much, member. With regards to the first question on issues of internal democracies within parties, I think I alluded to it when I was responding to an earlier question, and those are some of the challenges that most of our parties are facing, and it's understandable. We are a young democracy, and most of the parties have not really attained their equilibrium, and therefore it's an expected challenge, and I believe we can go death of democracy. It says that democracies don't die through coup d'etats or revolutions. They die through weakening of critical institutions like political parties and other institutions of governance. Therefore, I believe that it's very important for our parties to be able to have internal democracy, and basically I understand that we are a young young multi-party system, and therefore with time, when we build capacities of parties, then we will be able to address that issue. The issue of elections, parties not conducting the internal elections, I believe is an infringement of the law. When parties are registered, one of the key things that they're supposed to deposit with the registrar is their constitution. And the constitution clearly spells out one of the key things that is supposed to be spelled out in the constitution is how they conduct the election, the frequency, the regulations regarding the nominations, and the rest like. And therefore, if parties are not compliant with their own constitution, then that's an infringement on the law, and it calls for enforcement of the law. And I believe that once I occupy this office, that's one of the key things that I'm going to work on with regards to enforcement of compliance with the Political Parties Act, with the provisions of the Constitution regarding political parties, and with the various regulations guiding political parties. Thank you.
Mr. Abdullahi, is not a belief, it is the law. You said you believe.
Sorry? Yes, it's the law. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Allow me to ask very brief questions so that I don't have to ask again. One, when did you cease to be a member of a political party? Because I knew at some point you were. Two, do you have engagements or businesses that might conflict or be in conflict with a position that should you qualify to be appointed? And thirdly, coincidentally, you appear to have graduated the same year I did. And I remember during those years, students used to stay for 2 years before admission to the university. I happen to have cleared high school in 1993. You happen to have cleared in 1994. But I know the Joint Admission Board was taking universities for all the main universities then, which were about only 4 at the same time. But there was an exception. Students who could go for self-sponsored, who were self-sponsored, could come earlier, which was popularly known as parallel degree program. In which program were you, the self-sponsored or the public sponsored?
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. I'm a member. With regards to the first question, when I ceased to be a member of a political party, first of all, I want to state that I've never applied to join any political party. When I applied for this position, I know it was a requirement that we should be not an official of any political party and also may not have affiliation with political parties. So I did a search and I found that I was a member of Shirikisho Party, which I was really shocked to. And I think that is one of the challenges that many Kenyans face. And immediately I was forced to write to the Secretary General of the party that I don't even know, and a party that I don't even know its ideology and what it espouses, but which I was fraudulently registered to be a member. Therefore, I resigned immediately. So I'm not an official of any political party, and currently I am partless.
Mr. Ali, could you just say that again? You are saying you never became a member of Shirikisho Party, but you found you are a member.
Yes. and those are, I mean, anyone can, if you might end up, you can be even an elected member on a particular party, but unfortunately you might find, when you go and do the real search, you might find yourself being a member of more than one party, or even a member of a party that you are not elected on. So it's one of the challenges that really needs to be addressed.
Chair, that support him also. When I was doing my clearance, I found myself registered as a member of Economic Freedom. But yes.
They try to boost their membership. Yeah, it is understood.
Thank you. Now,
I think when you are done answering Mheshimiwa Gishimu's question, you will also tell us how to avoid that.
Okay. Number two, with regards to engagements that might conflict, as we're speaking currently, I don't have any engagement that will...
The ones that we perceive as conflicting, tell us all the businesses that you are involved, you are currently involved, if any.
Thank you. I currently am not involved in any business. I am probably involved in a little consultancy services, and I believe that I consult in area of strategy and policy development. But I believe that I will avoid as much as possible with issues that can bring conflict. And once, maybe you will never know. If it appears that there is any conflict that might arise, I will declare it as required by the Leadership and Integrity Act. With regards to the question on when I completed high school, probably it's a typographical error. I want to confirm that I am publicly sponsored. At that time, I was not a parallel student, and I cleared actually in 1992. I have a copy of my certificate. Probably it's a typographical error on my CV, or the copy of my CV. I cleared in 1992. I even delayed to join the university for 1 year, and I joined with the 1993 team. So I do have a copy of the original copy of my KCSE here, and that so probably is an oversight on the typographical error. Thank you very much. Now, the issue of fraudulent registration. It's a criminal offense. It actually is clear in the law, and I want to, when I occupy this office, I think the first assignment that I'll do is to sanitize the register of political parties, members of all the parties that are currently registered. Because we have a requirement that when a party is being registered provisionally, for full registration, they are supposed to present a list of members, at least 1,000 members from more than half of the counties. Many a times parties just sit down and write those names and get their IDs from M-Pesa shops, from lost IDs and many, many other venues. So during registration, also going forward, we'll ensure that the list provided by the party are scrutinized in such a way that the members of the names of the members are genuine and that members have voluntarily applied to join that party. Therefore, they need to bring evidence of members' application plus their membership cards with probably even photographs of those members. Once we put in that stringent measures, then these fraudulent issues will stop. And once we find any party doing the same also, we will take appropriate legal measures, including the registration. Thank you.
Chair, mine is, I think, in seeking clarification. Mr. Ali has been in the public service for over 10 years. He was the CEC of Wajir, Isiolo for 5 years. And we are aware of the emoluments that the counties give. They are so lucrative. But he is also, according to the questionnaire that he's provided, he is also a businessman dealing with livestock, and he stated how much he's able to make in a year. But going to Article 25 of the questionnaire, he's put his net worth at 9 million. So I was wondering if we could give us a comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, member. The facts that you have stated are real facts, and I want to be very clear that the income that I get is also spent, and the PACs in the counties, I think, are perceived to be a lot, but I want just to state clearly that the net pay for a CEC is, when I was there, was 220,000 after taxation. 220,000. And I also want to report that I've been blessed to have, currently as we're speaking, I have 9 children, all of them going to school. I want to state that I have 3 of them in high school, Kenya High, Nairobi School, and Limuru Girls. I have 4 of them in a private academy. And therefore, the little income I get usually is spent in servicing of my family. And the savings that I make is what I invest. And net worth is basically what you save after you consume. And therefore, I want to state that, yes, and I started the business of livestock just 2 years ago, and hopefully I'll build on my net worth, but currently that is what it is. Thank you.
And if I can comment a little, your net or gross is 700?
Sorry?
Per month? Is it, what is your gross income?
For?
Per Madre.
From the county or?
Right now.
Right now?
Yes, your total.
Gross income per?
Month.
Per month?
Approximately.
No, my gross income per month is currently, as we are speaking, is about 200,000. Yes.
And you would feel comfortable with a monument attached to this post because it will disrupt your livestock.
Sure. The PACs, once I've made a decision, applied for the position, I am ready for whatever PACs it comes with and whatever disruptions that comes along.
Yeah, because we don't want you disrupted, and then you spend your time in livestock.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Ali, I am impressed. I think you're one of those Kenyans who are adding serious voters. You say you have 9 children.
Yes.
Are you also willing to disclose whether they're from the same? How many wives you have?
Yeah, I'm very willing to disclose. I'm happily married to 2 wives.
Okay.
Yes.
Any more questions? If there are no more, let me ask you just 2 quick questions. First is on the question of nomination of candidates. You know that the question of nomination of candidates for all offices has always been problematic for all political parties. What is your view in terms of how we can improve it? That's the first question. The second question...
Let me get that again, sir.
The question of nomination of candidates...
For elections?
For elections,
okay,
has always been problematic in this country. What is your view in terms of how we can improve it? The second question is on the political parties' funding. You are aware that the public, we fund certain political parties from the public coffers, and that funding is supposed to be prudently utilized, and it's also supposed to go to improve the management of political parties, and at least 30% is supposed to improve the possibilities of nomination of women, persons with disability, youth, ethnic minorities, and the marginalized. What is your view in terms of how we can ensure political parties prudently use these funds and use it to achieve the stated intentions?
Thank you, Honourable Vice Chair. Nominations, with regards to the question on nomination, I agree with you that it's a very thorny issue, and we have very beautiful party constitutions registered at the Registrar of Political Parties. I managed to read a few of them, including the major ones. When you see it on paper, they're very beautiful. But when you come to practice, again, the challenge is many a times parties don't live or don't give life to the provisions of their own constitutions. So I believe that one of the things that is very key is, as political parties, I think we need to build capacities of political parties and their structures. Structures including the governing council, the management committees, and also including the election board of parties. Once the capacities of these institutions are developed, then we can have some sensible form of nominations and ensure that there is internal democracy, that people are nominated by members of that party and not by officials or party leaders. The one thing that I think is very key is that we don't have member loyalty. Parties have not succeeded in bringing their members up to speed with the party policies, and when it comes to even election nominations or party primaries, many a times people who don't belong to even that parties vote. Therefore, it's all about enforcement and ensuring that citizens are civic education is conducted so that we have party members who are loyal, and we also have party officials that are living the constitutions of their parties. Once we are able to get those 2 things, then I think we can solve the issue of nominations, so that the election boards are fair, that decisions are made by members of that party and not certificate not issued by the election board as directed by probably the governing council or the party leadership. That, I think, is the critical issue. So, again, the main challenge we have is that most of the parties have strongholds. And the major challenge is that it's perceived that when you get a party ticket nominated in a particular region, then you are as good as elected. That is why it's becoming very, very a very, very important issue, and also an issue of do or die. So I believe that once we solve the issue of party primaries, then the violence that we experience even in the national elections will reduce. So I'll address, from that office perspective, building capacities and ensuring compliance with the party constitutions. Thank you. With regards to funding, yes, you've rightly put, the funding is, public funding is critical. I believe that is the price that citizens have to pay for democracy. I am one of the big proponents of party funding. I know there are some Kenyans who might not feel that it is even right to fund political parties, but I believe personally that it's very important. It's even good to increase this funding, but of course issues of accountability must be very clear, that parties that benefit from public funding have to be accountable, and I think the law has a lot of provision with regards to how these parties are supposed to be accountable, and they are supposed to report. There are reporting requirements in the Act. Therefore, yes, the issue of the 30% to be spent on improving representation by the marginalized group is very key. And I want to state that one of the conditions or provisions of the law is that if any party fails to use this 30% to improve these marginalized groups' participation, then those are one of the conditions under which the funding can be suspended. So again, it's issues of enforcement of the law and also issues of encouraging parties to be able to, because this is a national issue, gender mainstreaming, issues of youth, people with disabilities. These are things that we have rightly put in our constitution, that we need to protect these marginalized groups. And once we got any form of funding, actually the minimum is 30%. I believe that the parties should actually spend more of the portion of the funding on this, so that we can also improve on the requirement of the constitution of the 2/3 gender rule. Therefore, I will handle this in terms of enforcement of the Act and also in terms of engaging these parties so that they can understand the requirement of the funding, and also to be able to appreciate this very important critical role that parties play with regards to involvement of or improving the number of representation by this marginalized group. Thank you.
Mr. Ali, have you at any time vied for election to any office? And if so, when? Secondly, to be appointed, you are required to have proven knowledge in any of the following 6 areas: finance, management, political science, law, governance, or public administration. Which of those 6, either one or more, do you think your strength lies in?
Thank you very much. I have never vied for any political office. The nearest I came to an election was when I became a student electoral commissioner at Moi University in the students' elections. So I've been a student electoral commissioner. Maybe that also, that's an experience that we should have shared. And then I have not contested any other election. With regards to my experience, I think I am good at 3 of those areas. With regards to public administration, I have enough skills that I've garnered. Political science also, because I did government. And government, I think the name of government and public administration at Moi University is just another name for political science, degree in political science at Nairobi University. Because when we compared notes on the courses that we do, it's more or less the same. And at that time, it wasn't very lucrative to have political science degree at Moi University because of the political situation at that time. Now, I am also good at public finance because my training in public administration at master's level covered issues to do with
Chair, point of order. Are we belaboring some of these points? They are in the CV, and I think they have already been addressed. This interview has gone on for over 45 minutes.
No, it's good to elaborate.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Thank you.
On the CV, but you can just...
So I am good in those 3 areas: public finance, political science, and public administration. Thank you.
Don't worry. The faculty used to be known, or department used to be known as political science. Yeah. What you did in government is used to be known as political science.
Yes.
It is just a change of name that came in.
Thank you.
So members, I think you are through. Ms. Abdulai, we are through with the questions. Do you have any comments, perhaps brief?
I think mine is just to thank the committee for this opportunity and pray that you find me suitable for this position. Thank you.
Okay. If we approve your name, then make sure your first duty is to clean the register in respect of the members of this committee, because Honorable Mutai has had his name included in some strange party. So ensure that all the members of this committee are cleaned, all right, because you never know.
Sure.
You never know.
Sure.
Just before the next election, so we feel comfortable.
I believe once I am nominated, this is my parent committee, which I will work with, and I undertake to do that. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you very much for coming.
Chair, if I may, it's 12:10. I would like to request that we finalize the other two. I'm certain that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us left, and we can finish by 1. If we can do in half an hour with the other two.
Well, Mheshimiwa, we have had a problem because they were spaced and they were informed to come different times. We are trying to shorten by calling them individually to see whether they can avail themselves. Because they had been given time up to 4 p.m.
Has the Secretariat managed to contact them?
Yes, I think they are contacted. I'm asking them. One has come. Can you check whether they've come?
Forward in the future, Chair, I think we could have conducted all these interviews in the morning, so it's best to give times in the morning for interviews. Even if we were to go at 4 hours, for 1 hour for each, we'd have finalized in 4 hours.
Actually, Honorable Shamala, the original allocation of time required Mr. Ali, with whom we've just completed, was to come at 11:30, but at least we managed to start at 11. Then the next interviewee was slotted for 2:30, and the last one for 4 p.m. So before we started, we agreed with the Secretariat to at least call the other two to just come around. So they're actually on their way now, as I understand. Yeah. So it means they hopefully, and I agree with you.
Yes,
I mean, we can get over with this before 1. We don't need to have a whole
day to interview 4 candidates.
Yeah, we will change
Chair,
in the future.
Perhaps with the agreement of Chair and the members, as we wait for them, rather than just sit, we could perhaps make our observations on the first 2. Yeah.
Yes, Chair, I want to concur with the Vice on that. Since some of us are not even going to go for lunch here, we can start making our observations for the report for the first 2.